Waiters and waitresses of Reddit, what is the most horrible experience you have had with a customer? Waitress here. Had a large bruise, size and width of a hand, on my upper forearm. Super swollen and purple. Had a guy grab my arm and ask, "Does this hurt?" Before squeezing hard. He spent the remainder of his visit making domestic abuse jokes and talking about how he was going to take me home and give me more. Drunk guy with his wife who made jokes about mounting me while the wife just laughed and then tried to rub my arm. Sidestepped out the way of that though. LPT, don't touch your server. I've posted this before, but I had been working at this Thai place in my town for about 8 months, and for the last 4 months I'd seen the same teenage couple come in every Sunday and leave 0% regardless of service. One day my boss decided enough was enough. To annoy, she all but yelled to me, "That's my Thai nickname. It's an endearing name generally given to chubby children that loosely translates to little something. I don't care whose turn it is. You take them next week, and you make sure you earn that 0%. I do a bit of a double take. She can't possibly mean what I think she means. You mean? She nods and gives me this smile that is equal parts devious and smug. A week later they come in 5 minutes into my shift. She seats them in my section, smiles at me and tells me to do my worst. Here is a fairly detailed account of the wonderful 45 minutes that followed. I wait a good 5 minutes before going to greet them and bring waters. They're ready to order. I don't have a pen. I'll be right back. I promise. I go out back. Power smoke a cigarette. Takes me about 90 seconds before I return. They're my only table and I'm not handling food yet, so I don't wash my hands. I reek of smoke. I take her order. Pad Thai no bean sprouts like always. As he opens his mouth to tell me he'll have the same, I give him the just a minute finger and pull out my phone. I text my fiance registered sign and ask if he wants to get dinner from my place or his tonight. I take his order. I somehow misunderstand and write down extra bean sprouts. Their food comes up while I'm telling my boss and the other waitress a story about my cat. I finish telling the story before I get their food. I bring it out and walk away as they're starting to complain about the sprouts. About 5 minutes after they get the food, I get a second table. One is a customer from a former job of mine and we spend a few minutes catching up when I go to greet them. The 0%s try to signal me as I leave the table, but I stare straight ahead. I come back for my new table's order and see that their glasses are missing roughly 4 sips of water. This simply won't do. I hang their ticket and come back to fill their glasses. I look at 0%s empty glasses, look the guy straight in the eye, smile, and walk away. He stops me as I'm walking over with apps for my new table and asks for boxes. I tell him I'll grab them right after I drop off this food. I play a game of 2048 all the way up to 1024 before bringing them one small box. They ask for 2 bigger boxes in the check. I promise I'll be right back, and then ask my boss to keep an eye on the table I like while I go smoke again. Obviously I don't usually take this many smoke breaks, especially not this early into a shift. I come back and my boss tells me they came to her for boxes and to pay and told her they're never coming back. He voids their check, gives me the $20 some dollars, and tells me I earned it. TLDR, boss gave me $20 to give over the top bad service to awful regulars. Once, when I was working at this insanely popular breakfast joint, my first table of the morning was a seemingly adorable old couple. After going through our specials, at their request, she ordered the duck hash special, and he ordered 2 boring poached eggs on toast. All good. I bring them their food and the guy starts freaking out. You see, I didn't bring him a tablespoon for his eggs. Granted, he didn't ask for one, but according to him, everyone knows that poached eggs are supposed to be served with a tablespoon. I've been a waitress for nearly a decade, and I've served a lot of poached eggs, and I've never heard this rule. Nonetheless, I apologize profusely and tell him I'll go grab him a spoon. No, he yells. My breakfast is ruined now. And then, this grown-ass adult throws his plate of food at me and storms out. His wife gives me a sympathetic smile as she slinks out behind him, and I work the next 8 hours with egg yolk stains all over me. Worst is a big group coming in on a Sunday. Ordered endless chip appetizer, waters all around, asked for extra lemons. You can see where this is going. Stayed for a few hours. Total bill, like $6. Got tipped 50 cents for having to wait around on them for literally my entire shift. Then the whole I am sensitive to gluten spiel that people have. Then they order a beer. I point that beer has gluten in it and they say, oh well, that doesn't bother me. It is just gluten in food that bothers me. Whatever. I probably should edit my post. But like 90% of the gluten-free customers are fine. Just some of those 10% can be extra demanding and sometimes end up eating bread and other things that have gluten in it. It is just the entrees that give them issues. We have an entire gluten-free section on our menu. But some gluten customers want to order off the regular menu and want us to make changes and stuff to accommodate them. It ends up taking about 4x as long as it should and prevents me from being able to serve my other tables. Those are the gluten-free customers I am having issues with. When I worked at Subway, a customer threatened to come back and take a bat to my head because I laughed at what I genuinely thought was a joke. A lady starting smoking crack at the table, and when confronted about it broke the hostess's nose. So I never waited tables, but I was a busboy the entire time I was in high school. We had this family that would come in. Dude and his wife. They're two small kids. They seemed like the most ordinary family, but they were like Vishnu, the destroyers of tables. They always left a ducking disaster. Fries everywhere. It all over the floor. I sat and watched as one of the kids put the salt and pepper shakers into a glass of milk, and then watched the dad be like, hey, can Junior have a new milk? He had a little accident. They were both submerged in milk. Fries everywhere. Crumbs everywhere. 1% of the food had been consumed. They screamed the entire time to zero reaction from the parents. It was chaos for the entire hour they were there. Every time. I had to clean this up probably a dozen times before the hostess asked them not to come back. Yeah, they threw a ducking fit. Didn't come back though. Nightmare. Had a tray balanced on my shoulder full of food, and I was setting down hot plates to the table. Grandma shook her half-empty glass of tea in my face and asked why she couldn't get any service. Not a waitress, but worked in a healthy QSR, and not most horrible experience, but memorable. There was some sort of convention near my store location. I live in Ottawa, a short hop, skip and a jumble from Quebec. The city is pretty bilingual, but not everyone is, like me. Anyway, this woman is trying to order, but is speaking French. I can get the gist of things if I hear certain words, but she was speaking rather fast. After a couple minutes of back and forth, trying to answer her questions, I turn to a co-worker who is bilingual and ask him to help, as her and I seem to have a language barrier. As I finish my request to said co-worker, she says in totally perfect English with probably as much disdain as she could muster dart, and I quote, "This is Canada. We speak French and English." My mouth dropped, not only because of the comment, but because she understood me the whole time and didn't try to help. I couldn't wrap my mind around why someone would do that. Come on. Not everyone is taught French in school. I grew up in the West Coast prairies where French is not a mandatory subject. All I could do was stare at her for a few seconds and walk away. Guest was incredibly drunk. Couldn't even sit properly anymore, let alone talk. We refused to get him another drink. He threw a glass at my head. A family of 6 dined and dashed on Thanksgiving. It was already a rough thing to be working a family holiday, knowing my tribe was at home enjoying themselves, but to have to miss out on what should have been a good tip, it was just salt in the wound. At the end of the night, I just cried. All of the servers rallied around me and tried to offer me a portion of their tips to make up for a loss. I couldn't accept it, so they got me drunk and drove me home instead. They are awesome people. Edit. Thanks for the gold. It's my first. I wait tables in a country club. Had a couple come in once, and as they were sitting down, before I had even introduced myself, the woman was already complaining. Since they had to wait 5 minutes while we resat their table, she started off by telling me every time she gets the filet mignon it's awful and cooked wrong. I suggested she try something else. Nope. Goes for the same thing again. I gave the kitchen heads up and make sure it was perfect and save us all a headache. Steak comes up. Seems fine. I drop her plate in front of her and I can already see that bullet smirk people get when aren't amused. She grabs her butter knife and legit slaps the top of the steak with the flat of it 3 times and goes, "This is disgusting." Hasn't even cut into it or tasted it. Has me take it back and bring her a new one. So of course we do it. She gets her new one, eats half of it and takes the rest home. Wants to talk to a manager. Itches up a storm. Gets a whole meal free and dessert. Leave me a garbo tip even if you don't include the free steak and dessert. Even left me a comment card. Just saying steak sucked and 1 star for service. This happened a long time ago. I used to work at TGIF as a busboy and there was this huge group of about 20 people. At the end of their meal, they received the bill. Everyone put in money for what they ordered. They sat there for a while doing the math and finally figured it out. They call their waitress over and say, "We ain't ordered no gratuity. Show me gratuity on this table." They continued to try and argue and made the waitress cry. Manager had to be called in to explain what gratuity was. A lady and her husband came in and before sitting down told us that she was deathly allergic to white wine, saying, verbatim, "If you feed me white wine I will die." So I run around double and triple checking recipes and ingredients and making sure the kitchen is ready so when she orders I know her food will be safe. Her husband orders the special and I make sure to tell her not to eat any of his meal as it is dressed with a beurre blanc made with white wine and I'd like her to survive her dining experience. Well, I bring out their food and the first thing she does is scoop a big ol' forkful of hubby's special and I cry out in dismay as she shoves in her dumb ducking mouth and says while chewing, "Oh, 1 bite won't hurt." She also single-handedly weeded every server on the floor by forcing them into inappropriate conversations while they were trying to take care of their busy sections, and cornered another guest in the tiny corridor leading to the bathrooms to tell him, aggressively, he was being too loud. TLDR, I'm deathly allergic to X == I don't really like X in Olditch, and busy servers don't give a shit about your week. Not a waitress but previously a lady bartender at a theater. On an incredibly busy night, where we are well understaffed, an old guy ordered a Jack Daniels then proceeded to blank my next 3 questions of "Would you like ice with that?" whilst chatting with his mates. Other customers are desperately clamoring for my attention. After some thought I put the ice in as it's the more popular option. He then turns back, looks at his drink, cold and disgusted says, "What the hell is this? I don't want ice." Flustered I fix his drink, apologizing profusely. He still continues to look at me like dirt. Hayes scoffs and walks off. It sounds like a little thing, I know, but I was only 18 and was so shook up by it. I'm gonna mix things up and tell you all about a time that I was the idiot when I was a server. These 3 black women came into the restaurant with their 4 little kids and I led them to their table, welcomed them, yada yada. By the time I was asking what they wanted to drink, the kids were already bored and had started climbing on the tables and chairs. I honestly thought it was cute, so I said, without thinking, "Or you have a little family of monkeys." Immediately, I realized my mistake. My eyes widened in horror as theirs widened in surprise. I hoped they would ignore it, but one of the women turned to the 2 and loudly asked, "Did this itch really just?" and I ran away. I served them their food and spent an entire hour avoiding eye contact as I didn't know what I could say that wouldn't make things worse. When they left and I went to collect the bill, one of the women actually left me a really good tip and a note that just said "It's okay," with a smiley face. I hope her life is full of sunshine and happiness and goodness. Edit. Holy cow, I feel so heard. To the person who gave me gold, your mother is so proud of you and you look super pretty today. Also, I love you. I was new to the job and still finding my feet when I had a guy who was insistent that I wasn't capable of the job due to my dwarfism and kept complaining about inclusive bollocks. What I found frustrating about the whole situation is that I'm not a good waiter, but due to reasons completely unrelated to my dwarfism, poor memory, anxiety, coordination, etc., and he was doubting my competence before I had shown any of these issues. It was purely based on how I looked, but I never felt like I was able to prove him wrong either. That experience really got to me for a long time. Bartender here. About a month ago, a white man walked up to a group of Hispanic men playing pool and announced, "This is a Trump bar, whites only." I'd never seen him before. He was promptly kicked out. I haven't seen the guys who were playing pool back in since that night, which is the worst part. Had a group of girls speak to my manager and call me a stupid hoe over $0.13. Basically they ordered a side of fries and one maybe got a lemonade. Anyway, give them their bill and they gave me just enough to cover it since we round to the nearest dollar instead of dealing with coins. Girls flip out over $0.13, so I go in my bag to scrounge it up. They speak to my manager who refunded them everything. Stupid, and they proceed to call me names as they leave their table. I was having a bad day so it made me upset at the time. Now I find the whole thing laughable. Worked as a bar back. I accidentally dropped a fork on a very drunk dude's foot, who got angry and shook his head and grumbled about it. Shocking, I know. Bits of food fell on the ground as well, so I grabbed a towel to clean it up. I look the man in the eye to let him know I'm on the floor cleaning next to him. He then proceeds to stand up and step on my hand as he walks to the bathroom. It hurt like a itch, and I yelled out in pain. He didn't acknowledge it at all but chuckled as he walked away. Sadly there wasn't much I could do. I just got angry and walked to the back to calm down. Edit. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I have many more horror stories from the year I worked there. Guy tries to get my attention, so instead of saying excuse me miss, he intentionally grabbed my ass and then apologized with oh sorry, I was going for your hip. I know I've got a booty, okay. It's not hard to miss. He got kicked out after that, as it wasn't the first time he's done it to other servers in our restaurant. Edit. Mind you, this also happened at a Cracker Barrel old country store in Kentucky. After he got kicked out of our restaurant, we found out a few months later he's also banned from another local establishment in town for, you guessed it, sexually harassing servers. We had a horrible experience with every other customer because of one customer. The dude was a regular, came in at least 4 times a week, and every time would camp in his booth for a solid 3 hours, you know the type. One Friday night, during dinner rush, this guy comes in with a large duffel bag. Not too uncommon. He always brought weird stuff to work on. This time, it was a partially assembled AR-15 kit, which he pulled out, set on the table, and proceeded to continue assembling the kit. Cue mass complaints alarm from other customers while we huddle in the back deciding how to best kick him out without causing even more of a scene. I used to work at Subway. There was one legendary customer that we only refer to as Crazy Bacon Lady. She was an older woman. She came in and asked how much a 6 inches BLT was. We told her it was $3.50 plus tax. She then proceeded to yell at us saying it was $2 when she came in yesterday. Hint. She didn't come in yesterday. In fact, this was the first time she had even been in our store. Plus the fact that the BLT was never at any point $2 in the 3 years I had worked there. She barks out her order the whole way up the line saying such gems as, I am a good Christian woman. I don't deserve to be treated this way. For $3.50 that bacon better be fresh. The service here is terrible. I'm never coming back. You hear me? And the best one of them all. When she gets to my co-worker who is manning the cash register and he tells her the total of $3.68, tax and all, she says, you people are workers of the devil. She plops down exact change, snatches up her bag, and storms out the door. Whenever I see my old co-workers, we still have a good laugh about it. 12 years in the industry, worked front and back of the house throughout. Definitely more good times than bad. Always tried to defuse situations before they escalated out of control, but a few moments stand out. The best moment was some dad giving me crap about misquoting the price of the lunch special, $1 less, in front of his family. Pulled a buck out of my pocket and dropped it on the table and walked off. Almost got stabbed by another prep cook when he thought the food wasn't coming out fast enough. Walked off that job. Executive chef offers me another 25 cents hour to come back. No thanks. Life is worth more than that. My worst, most awkward experience came from my favorite regular. When I was waiting tables, I had this black cowboy who used to come in every Sunday after church. For brunch, usually with his wife but sometimes alone. We would talk about horses, rodeoing, life, and when he was alone, women, lol. One Sunday I didn't see him and he didn't come in for 2 more weeks after that. On the 4th week I see him again and took him from the hostess and sat him myself at an open table in my section. After I get his extra sweet tea and coffee set for him, I asked where he had been and told him he better have a hell of a vacation to tell me about. He dropped his eyes and softly mumbled that his wife had died. My heart dropped and didn't know what to say. My manager, who knew him, let me and another waiter he liked get off early and sit with him for his meal. He didn't talk much, but I could tell he appreciated just having someone sit with him. Seeing the pain that he felt really put a lot into perspective for me and made me appreciate my own relationship so much more. I lost contact with him after I moved away to start my career, but I really wish I could find him and talk to him again and let him know what an impact he had on my life. As a bartender, once I experienced what it is like for girls to be creeped on, and now I have a whole new understanding of what it is like. The guy who owned a gay bar in Leeds, one town over, was talking to me. My bar was empty and he was a small, older gentleman who wouldn't stop saying how I'd be great there and that he would pay way more money. Also that at 11 everyone takes their tops off and at 12 their trousers too, but only if you want to. I was polite and all that, but it was creepy. When it came time for him to leave, he went to shake my hand but then pulled it over and gave it the sloppiest kiss I could imagine. Ladies, I'm so sorry for men. Jesus Christ, I felt actually violated and washed my hand for a good 10 minutes. Someone threatened to get me fired and called me an idiot because the sandwich he ordered on a shift I didn't work had onions on it. Not a waiter, but went out with the ex and her family for her birthday dinner to an Ethiopian restaurant. Her mom is the queen of passive aggressive and grilled the waitress for about half an hour. Nothing outright mean, but like I said, mistress of passive aggressive. At one point, the waitress starts screaming, throws her notepad at us and quits on the spot. She ended up coming back, but wouldn't talk to the ex's mom. We all left her and extra $20 tip each. I did a stint at Starbucks. They put into the target I was working at. Had just graduated from my degree program and they offered to let me manage it. It was good money. Of special note, the just graduated bit, graduated from college, as had the person I was working with. We made this woman's iced tea wrong. I don't remember why. It was stupid mistake, but those happen. It would have taken all of 30 seconds to remake it. She threw it back across the counter, literally threw it, turned to her daughter and said in the most preppy, itchy, never worked a day in her life soccer mom trophy wife voice. See, this is why we finish high school. Being the manager, I refused her any further service. She thought she had me by the short hairs when she went to get the Target store manager. But when a ton of other customers backed up my story, she was removed from Target. One time at my family's barbecue shop, a woman asked me my nationality. She really meant my race. So I just told her I was black and white. She made the biggest stank face and then said, oh, whatever makes you happy, I guess. I didn't get a tip, but she did write Deuteronomy on the paper. Wish I were religious enough to know what she meant. Worked at a very popular chain wing place. You all know it. 24 top to myself, with other tables in my section. All separate checks. All mostly cash, which needed change, and all trying to pay at the same time. During this frantic moment of me hustling to make change and swipe cards, I have at least 4 of these mother duckers trying to sneak out the front door. I saw them, slammed down everything in my hands and chased them all the way to their cars. I confronted one of the girls as she rolled her window up while yelling duck UH, and peeling out of the parking lot. Forget the rest of them. I went back in. Mind you, no support from fellow staff here. I get back into the rest of the people impatiently waiting for me, and some of them trying to tell me they already paid me when I know they didn't. I was so GD angry that night I vowed to never put myself through that for so little again. So I quit. I love my job now. A group of 10 came in for a birthday to have drinks and sing karaoke. I start going around the table asking what each person would like and I get to Princess. She asks me for a drink menu. I tell her I have a beer list, but not a cocktail menu. It's a dive bar. She asks about pineapple drinks. I tell her we could do rum and pineapple, a pineapple upside down drink, etc. So she's asking her friend, no that's not it, what did I have that one time that I loved? So 2 more tables sit while I'm trying to take her order. So I'm just trying to speed it along. I tell her we make pineapple margaritas and blended. She just kept asking, oh, what other things with pineapple? So I tell her, you can pretty much make your own drink. What kind of liquor do you want? She took that as me saying to go back and make her own drink. So I backtrack and say, what I mean is we can start with a liquor and add pineapple and whatever other fruit or liquids you want. She finally just gets a pineapple upside down drink. So the night goes by. Everyone in her group is super chill. We're having a great time. And she's just got daggers on me the entire time. They finally cash out. I give her her bill, which is $5.01 because of weird tax. It's cash only. I ask if anyone needs change. Everyone says they're good and leaves. I go look at her ticket and she left me a $5 bill. Nothing else. Normally I wouldn't even print checks and just say $5. I don't know why after 12 years of serving and bartending this sticks out to me. Anyway, F you princess and your dumb pineapple drinks. No wonder you were the only single one at the table. You owe me a penny. A couple ordered food. When I brought it over to them, the guy had his hand up the woman's skirt. I was 16 and too shy to say anything, so I awkwardly put the food down and dashed away as quickly as I could. At the end of the meal, the ducker shook my hand then laughed. I assumed because he knew what he'd been doing. And he knew I knew what he'd been doing. I washed my hands then pulled a sickie and went home. Edit. I didn't shake his hand by choice. I had to give him his change after he paid. When my hand was out he grabbed it and wouldn't let go.